All right, it's been a little while since I've made any orienteering videos. But I decided I wanted to take a look at the WOC Relay, which I ran earlier this summer. WOC 2021. And I wanted to take a look at what I did and maybe explain some of my thought processes for what I did and hopefully find some mistakes that I made and criticisms of my route choice and stuff like that. But I guess I'll just get into it. I selected a few runners here that I thought would be interesting to follow, including myself. And yeah, the terrain was really interesting. If you've never experienced it or never watched the World Champs this year, I definitely recommend it. It's the Czech Republic's famous sandstone terrain. It is some of my favorite terrain I've ever run through because it's just so interesting, and it's honestly, I don't know how to describe it other than just being really fun to run through. It's just really technical and at the same time physically challenging and just enjoyable terrain. Anyways, let me jump right into this. I believe everyone is synced. Might go a little slower on the speed and then bump it up if I need to, but we have 20 seconds until the start. If I remember correctly, I had the close forking, so I ended up getting a little bit confused by the people going to the far ones on the way to the second control, but we'll see that in a second. Anyways, out of the start, I'm kind of hanging in the back. The pack breaks up into two groups. I am going with Albin Riedefeld, and I believe Martin was also there. So I'm sticking behind them, not trying to use all my energy right away, but they were pushing really hard, so I was struggling to keep up, but I did it just the same. I think this trail route was probably better, especially if you have the green forking, or the blue forking too, probably, but our route was okay. Hit the first control. Not much to say about this other than a tip for the relay is to kind of hang back and let the other runners do the work. Typically you can kind of pick and choose who you want to follow and navigate on your own. And the start of relays are usually like way too fast also. People just run out really hard. So there's no need to like really push it up to the front. Unless you're really worried about losing the leaders and you have a lot of speed and just strength through the fours that you can utilize. In my case, I'm not as physically strong as like very many of the other runners in this race, so I was kind of conserving that energy. But I had a good start to the relay anyways, coming into the first control. Slightly behind Sweden and Switzerland. I believe the next control, number 2, like I said, I made a small mistake because of being confused about the other forkings and following some of the other runners, so we'll see what happens here. Sweden and Switzerland taking what I think is a better route than I did. I believe number 2 was at the top here, so Switzerland doing a good route. You could see me here. Let's move it back a little bit. Oops, that's too far back. You see me kind of come up from number 1 and accidentally go all the way down this first re-entrant, which was totally not necessary. And then I ended up climbing this really steep slope and try to catch up to these guys that took a better route than I did. This was Martin Hoogman's mistake. He was confused why he was so far ahead because he went around. Anyways, here I am running to the second control. I think the route I took through this re-entrant and then up was not ideal, especially from this first control. We saw that Martin Hoogman gained a lot of time taking the route up here. I believe he came all the way up to this hill. We can take a look at Martin's route. Yeah, he came all the way up and around the cliffs, which is really runnable. The tops of the hills are very, very runnable compared to going up and down the cliffs. So Martin's route, I believe, was by far the best and should have been the one I opted for, but I was running, because other people were running to the blue number 1 and the green number 1. I opted to follow some of them instead and kind of lost some time going all the way down into the re-entrant when I could have saved the climb. Number 3 was a really simple control, so I'll keep it moving. We go through number 3. I'm right next to Spain. And then the 4th control is a bit tricky. You can see some people going down and trying to navigate the cliffs, which is a good route, especially if you have the green. Number 4, I believe I had the blue one. And I was inclined to kind of take this trail route because of the speed. And I guess I ended up losing quite a bit of time on this leg just from how physical it was and how much stronger the older runners were than I was. Anyways, number 4 was fine. I think my route was good. I may have hesitated a little bit on the way in. I don't think it was for that long. Came up to the hilltop. I wasn't sure exactly where to go down. The GPS doesn't show it very well, but I think I came around the back here, which wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was fine. And for number 5, Sweden, taking an interesting route, and same with Ruslan. I think Ruslan's route was quite good here, but I'll keep playing it. I was on the back of Robert Merle, I believe, of Austria. I don't know where he is. Oh, maybe not. But I think my route was fine. I kind of stuck below these cliffs, came to this re-entrant and climbed up the little passage here, and then got up to number 5. And now here I'm ahead of Gout Stoyer. I feel like I butchered his name, sorry. I'm ahead of him in Spain, so I feel like I was comfortable with my confidence in the beginning and much more comfortable with the type of terrain, and I was doing well under the pressure. Physically though, I was struggling to keep up with some people and some of the strong runners, and more importantly really strong navigators like Ruslan Glebov managed to get quite far away, and that will just continue as the course goes on, and I get extremely tired by the end, especially because I was not in good shape when I was running these races. So let's continue. Number 6, I again just really didn't want to think too much about my route, and I saw that this trail goes almost all the way to the control, and all I need to do is run down this really open flat hilltop spur and get to my control. So yeah, the forking here, the forking is quite confusing. to understand, but basically I had the red forking, so I went to 6, 7, 8, I believe. Yeah. I think that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I did. It's been a while, so I'm glad I can revisit this. So it's hard to say. I think for this red forking, the trail route option is definitely preferred. But for something like the green option, I think the trail option is not good at all because it's just so much closer. And something like what Albin Riedefeld is doing here is much better. But unfortunately on the trail, I was not very quick compared to everyone else, so I think I was with another fast runner, Yannick Mikkels, and he totally ran away from me. I made a small mistake in here coming through. Wasn't sure exactly where I was coming off this hill, and hesitated a bit, but as you can see, I think right in here, I'm coming down the spur and I like stop a little bit and then, yeah, then get a little confused. I get down to number 6. All is good. Chasing Norway to number 7. And at this point, I am seriously suffering from exhaustion, just really tired. I was pushing really hard to keep up with people. So it was not easy. I'm gonna put Great Britain in there. The 8th control was fine. These were relatively easy, although it's detailed. 6 to 7, I focused on picking this feature, which was this re-entrant here. Basically coming up kind of almost the same way I came into number 6. And just kind of making my way towards this re-entrant, which points straight into the control, so super easy to use. Number 8, same thing. I kind of just dropped into the big re-entrant and then used the smaller one to lead myself in. And number 9 was here. I believe I came through number 5 because typically the tops of the spurs are quite runnable in this terrain. That's something you kind of need to learn from doing a training camp and stuff, and I was lucky enough to do like a almost 2-week-long training camp with the Ukrainian national team, so I had some familiarity with the Czech terrain, and I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. So definitely useful to have that kind of familiarity beforehand, so you know stuff that you otherwise wouldn't, like how steep the cliffs are and how easy it is to go up and down re-entrants and spurs and how open the hilltops are and stuff like that. But basically for number 8, I was just kind of using the spur. I think I came down in like a weird spot. I think ideally I would have just kept running down and then taken this re-entrant right here and then went into the control, because going down these wider re-entrants is usually easier than going straight off the cliff like I did. And then you wouldn't have to back up as much. So I'm running here. I believe Eduardo is catching me here, and I'm struggling with the intensity. And this climb was not easy. But The leaders are getting away. I'm still happy with my race so far because it's been pretty clean and pretty fast considering the shape that I was in and my current level of experience. So number 10 went pretty well. My plan for number 10 was basically to run, I believe it was to run between these cliffs and then get to, I think it was this reentrant, yeah. Came through, went around this big cliff and then went up the reentrant around the second cliff, I believe. Yeah. Up this reentrant around the two cliffs. And then around the reentrant here. And basically just came in to, this one was kind of behind the hilltop here, so you can see the reentrant going south and then you kind of pop your way up and hit the control. 11 was another interesting one. I think that my route was decent. Could have definitely been better. I think my execution wasn't perfect, especially towards the end of the control. I decided to come kind of straight over this way. Gilmarco's kind of dropped early. I should have just stayed up and went to the trail probably, at least until here, and then went the way I did. Kind of went by the third control so I knew where I was. Went down these two reentrants, but then decided to go around the bottom because the attack was better. And actually finding the control point was difficult for me because I did not read the description, so I thought it was on top of this hill, when in fact it was between these two cliffs. So that I lost a little bit of time there, but it was not horrible. It wasn't terrible. It was like 10 seconds, 5 seconds of looking at the map and figuring it out. Number 12. Number 12, the plan was basically to go up and between the two cliffs, the upper one on the upper spur, and then the lower one on this big reentrant. Go between those, and they kind of funnel me nicely to this reentrant. And then from there, you kind of just cross this small reentrant, and then it's on the hilltop. That was easy to see. I guess I'll talk about 11 a bit, even though I already did, because it's more interesting of a control. I didn't have a great plan going into it. As you can see from my poor execution of the route, I just kind of ended up running back towards number 3, and I thought that somewhere around number 3 I would drop down and run over to 12. But by the time I got into this big reentrant down here, I saw this hillside, and it was like too steep to climb, so I had to go around anyways. So I had to go around here, and then when I got into the circle, I wasn't sure what I was looking for, so I lost some more time. And I honestly think that the route was okay, especially considering that all of this is out of bounds. I want to see where Spain went, actually. So they went underneath and then found a place. Wow, they might have just dropped off the cliff. Wow. I guess if you find this way down, that's kind of crazy. I would not expect that to be good. Wow, these people are just jumping off cliffs. That is something that might be a good strategy. In some cases, if the cliffs aren't super steep, you can kind of just cross them. I was not really looking for that, and that's like, that adds a whole another level of complexity that I don't really want to get into, but for now, let's continue watching the end of this course. The analysis is already getting too long, and I gotta figure out how to do them better so they don't just last this long. Maybe I can just increase the speed and then everything's better. Number 13, an interesting route choice leg. Finally, a lot of there's a lot of good route choice, it's a lot of good route choice on legs, but this is one of the longer legs that has a lot of different route choice. I took the easy one, which is this trail around, and then you follow the out of bounds. And then you have a really clear attack. You just drop into the reentrant and you're good. It's a little far out of the way. And I think it was almost better to just drop here, go into this reentrant thing. Let me see who actually did that. Yeah, Ukraine, Ruslan did the route I am mentioning, where you kind of go down this reentrant and then you follow the next reentrant, and then you end up kind of in the same spot without having to go all the way around really far, so you can get a lot of time that way. Anyways, I went around all the way around, and I'm falling quite far behind from the leaders at this point just from being tired. I'm running with the Slovakian. Yes, I'm running with the Slovakian. And I think that route was okay. You kind of had to just pick a route and go. Another one was going down here and around. And then potentially all the way around and up. I'm not sure. I didn't see very many people take that, although I heard it was an option. The end of the course, I made a mistake I'd like to look at. And I'd like to talk about, because here was a classic relay mistake where I was following the Slovakian and we both had different forkings. So let's see what happens. I'm following the Slovakian, the forkings are quite different, so I end up losing a lot of time. I realize about here that he's going super far to the south, and I'm like, that's way too far south, I need to cut up. But by this time I'm already too far south that I end up climbing this entire hill, which is really not necessary. And end up punching right behind the Slovakian, but I have the red forking, so I have to go back, punch my control. By that time I'm already pretty far behind. 17 is easy. You just use this spur and then you go around the reentrant. And then this hilltop's pretty obvious. You can kind of go up, weave your way between the rocks, and then find the control. Number 18, also not extraordinarily difficult. You have this big reentrant as a feature you can use. I guess I ended up cutting over. I thought I went kind of around. But yeah, you use the big reentrant, go around. It's the go controls, so there's quite a few like paths in the forest left from other runners, and it's also kind of easy to judge relative to the arena where the control is. And I kind of just ran in, and I was running all the way to this reentrant, ran down the reentrant and in, and yeah, that was the whole course. It was really fun to run. I'm really glad I got to run it. I love this terrain. You kind of have to do a good job simplifying a bunch of technical features and also min-maxing your physical speed based on the runnability of the hilltops versus the reentrants versus the cliffs, and doing this all while simplifying the map and making it readable and understandable. And it's just overall a really good course, really fun time. I really enjoyed. I feel like this analysis is pretty much done. I should probably make a better plan for this next time, because I'm kind of just rambling about random stuff. But hopefully it's somewhat interesting. And I hope to do more of these soon. Maybe some catching features videos too.